Okay, so today we're going to talk about, what's going to break on your TJ Jeep. So now I'm going to go through, haven't had one 16 years, been on the trail a lot, the things that I've seen that most commonly break. And the first one is just a no-brainer and an easy one. So your track bar comes down here and it attaches to your axle with this 10 millimeter bolt here. That's the stock 10 millimeter traction bar bolt. And that thing shears, it breaks, it comes loose, and it is grossly inadequate. The first thing you should do is when you upgrade to a better lift kit or get yourself an aftermarket track bar, get the one that has the 1/2-inch bolt or a bigger bolt so that you can fix that weak link in your TJ. Because you run on the trail, you better have a spare. I always carry one, even though I don't even use that anymore, because it just comes in handy and gets people fixed and off the trail quicker. The second thing we're going to talk about is steering. Now Matt's got a nice upgraded steering system here. Can't tell you how many times I've seen this particular, they call it drag link, tie rod, whatever. I guess this is the drag link, this is the tie rod. That thing will bow out there and your tires will end up bent in. Steering components on a stock TJ are notoriously weak. Do yourself a favor. Find whatever upgrade works for you, whether it's high steer, whether it's a heavy duty steering system. Do something about that weak steering stuff that you have. So another thing, while we're over here on the front, here's my spare steering box. This is a TJ Rubicon box. There's two styles. This one is for the Rubicon. Regular TJs have a different box, and actually the regular TJ box may be better. I don't know which is better or worse. I have personally broken at least 3 steering box issues. So the first time I broke this off. This is the sector shaft where your pitman arm attaches to here. I just snapped it off right there. When that happens on the trail, you can't steer and you're not going anywhere. So that is one reason. One of the absolute spares I always carry is a steering box. There's no way to get off the trail without it. Or especially if that happens where you shear off that sector shaft. The next thing that happens on the steering is where it attaches to the frame. So you have this bolt and this bolt and this bolt that holds your steering box on. Now I've ultimately had to replace mine. This bracket right here, I broke it off, I welded it back on, I broke it off again, I snapped all the bolts on the Rubicon, I had to chain my box on, drive 20 miles an hour on the road to get back to a place, and I ultimately have replaced this entire thing. But lots of issues with steering box, especially as you get into the bigger tires. If you stay on 33s, you're fine. When you start getting to 37s, like I run 40s, you got to do something. You might want to add a hydraulic assist steering system, and it took me a long time to understand why that was such a big deal and why the hydraulic assist is a big deal. I always thought it was just apply more pressure, force your tires to turn you to break other things, but really what it does is it takes so much stress off this attachment point on the frame, and that's why those are a good upgrade. Now I don't have one yet, and that's one of the things I'll probably get. I think PSC is a big company that does those sort of bolt-on kits. They're pricey, probably not needed when you're running on 35s. Get to 40s, probably a must. I'm probably going to try and include that in my Dana 60 upgrade. So there are 3 really common issues with the TJ, and we'll get to a couple more here in a minute. Boom. Okay, so now we're going to finish up our video about what breaks on your TJ, and we're out back to the back axle. So the one place I've really seen a couple what I'll call catastrophic failures. Here's this bracket back here that bolts to the axle, and it's got a bunch of extra stuff bolted to it, but it's fairly thin metal. It's welded to the axle. It attaches both the track bar and the upper control arm. And I've seen these break off. I saw my one friend had both on both sides break off, and his whole axle rotated around, cut his driveline in half. This is on the Ducey Ersham. That was a rough one. The other thing, I've seen it a number of times, these things will crack. So there's 2 ways to really fix this one. One is to just cut these brackets off and weld really heavy duty ones on, but that doesn't solve the fundamental problem of flexure. What I mean by flexure is as this tire comes up, this is coming up, it's pushing the axle back this way, and this one's pulling the axle that way, and the opposites happen on the other side. So the other tire's dropping down as this one comes up, and as it drops down, it twists the axle this way, and what you have is a torsional, like, twisting of the axle back and forth as your Jeep goes flexy, 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 back and forth, and eventually all that flexing and all that stress will break these off. It's kind of inevitable. So one of the things I suggest is just go to when you go to a new axle and you're not using a stock axle anymore, and I've already talked about upgrading axles, go to a triangulated upper forelink. That is really the best solution. It works great on the street. It works great on the trail. It doesn't leave a lot of stress on your axle, and it gets rid of this rather cumbersome track bar. It gives you extra room to move your axle back and give you some more wheelbase. There's a ton of good benefits to kind of go into that forelink system, but that's one of those things you got to watch out for, is because when these things go, they don't give you any warning. The other thing is fuel tank protection. Even on the Rubicon, I had the Rubicon skid plate. By the time I changed out my rear gas tank skid plate, I could probably had lost about 4 gallons of capacity from the number of times it got dented and pushed in. So, skid plates in general are good things to have. Here, belly pan, oil pan, make sure you got a good set of skid plates on your Jeep. Rocker guards if you're worried about the body, but the really critical ones are on your working components. A good differential cover's good. Not the biggest fan of the slider types. They take away a little bit from your ground clearance, and as a guy who runs a 14-bolt, ground clearance becomes a pain. So those are things to look out for on your TJ, and things you might want to plan in your build or what you're doing to fix them right the first time so you don't get out on the trail and have a problem.